Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and I haven't done one of these for a bit. It's been a few weeks at least, so I figured I would do a commentary here in which I talk about a topic. It is game related, and then I'm going to have some gameplay over here. So if you do watch that and you enjoy it, hope you really like it. But if you don't like that at all, then you know what, you could kind of just move this over to the side or background it or whatever. This is more just something you want to listen to. But anyways, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the Switch's launch. Now, I do have the Switch pre-ordered, and the Nintendo Switch, it is the new console from Nintendo, at least at this moment in time, that is going to be released on March 3rd. And among several things that people have talked about and kind of been worried about, for good measure, I understand it, such as the lack of an Ethernet port built into the dock, the lack of more storage than 32 gigabytes on board, the pricing of peripherals and such, but one of the main things has really been the weak game lineup. Now, this is either good or bad. If you love Zelda, then it's probably good because it's going to be a new Nintendo system with Zelda. Yes, we are going to get Zelda on the Wii U, Breath of the Wild, but we are going to get the better version on the Switch. So for any diehard Zelda fans out there, you should probably pick up the Switch version and get the Switch for that. Some people might also be saying, oh, Mario, no one does it. Actually, several people do that. Zelda is one of those killer apps that can push systems. I know people, when that game, I think A Link Between Worlds, came out on 3DS, they bought a 3DS specifically to play that. When Twilight Princess came out, several people I know got a Wii on launch and bought Twilight Princess. That was the only game they got. I also know several people that got a Wii exclusively for Twilight Princess, because I believe that had some exclusivity. I think it was a timed exclusive just before the GameCube release. And then even here, I personally know someone, you all know him as well too, Pathogen David. His decision to pre-order a Switch was actually contingent on Zelda. Yes, he owns a Wii U, however, he was very on the fence about getting a Switch. What convinced him was Zelda was a launch day title, and because of that, he said, that's it, I'm spending a lot more money than I wanted to because I want to get a Switch because it has Zelda on launch. If it did not have Zelda on launch, he would have waited to get a Switch. Either way, even if you are a fan of Zelda or you're not, the other games that are coming out on the Switch just seem to be a little bit lackluster. There are some other games coming out, such as Splatoon 2. There's going to be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I'm excited for. A lot of people say it's just going to be a remake, which it kind of is, just kind of a director's cut, I guess. And then Super Mario Odyssey looks awesome, but all those other games are coming out months after the Switch's initial launch, which... is that good or is that bad? That's what I want to discuss here. I thought of this, and a lot of people are complaining about the launch. I complain about it as well too, but when you really think about it, how important is a system's launch going to be? I'm not talking about the reveal. In my opinion, the Switch has had a very good reveal. I am talking about the launch. A lot of people, as I said, are complaining that there are not that many games that are out, but is that necessarily a bad thing? Because honestly, there's a few games that are questionable. You're getting one game that is going to be excellent, without a doubt, which is Zelda, unless you absolutely hate Zelda. And then all the other games are going to come out later. And this is what I was telling one of my friends when we discussed it. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that they can have a weak launch right now, because the major thing they have is Zelda. Now, if there was no Zelda on launch, this would be a disaster. There is at least one major new first-party Nintendo title. If that did not happen, this would be a disaster of a launch for a new Nintendo system, because I remember even with the Wii U, we got that new Super Mario Bros. U. To me, no, that was not worthy of backing a system on launch. Zelda, this does look like it's going to be worthy of that. However, here's the key with a launch. The launch is going to happen one time. The thing that really sticks in people's heads is the presentation. Look how much the Xbox One has matured, for example. You know what people still think of? Their draconian Suicide Watch DRM and the way they tried to revoke used games from us. That is something that happened in 2013, months before the system even launched. The system's launch does not matter to people now. What matters is Microsoft's original intent for the system, which many people are still upset about, and I can understand that. I fully see why you all are upset about that. Even looking at other systems, the PS3, the Xbox 360, their launches didn't have completely killer apps. There's not games out that came out on those systems launches that people are still, just majorly playing and backing to this day. People are remembering the other games that came out, a few years later into the life cycle. And even the PS3, for example, it didn't have the best launch. It didn't have the best games. It certainly was not priced the best, but you know what? Despite the Wii, because the Wii was a runaway success, in the end, the PS3 still beats the Xbox 360 in sales worldwide. And you have to remember, this is also with several people purchasing several different Xbox 360s. I know some people are going to say, oh, well, it didn't count because allegedly there were reports that Microsoft did not include all the systems that were sent back and returned to people and all that as sales. But trust me, I know several people that went to stores and bought different Xbox 360s every time they failed. Think about that. Think about how many red rings there were, how many people did that. The PS3 still beat that in the end. Even this generation right here, if you go back and you watch my original videos, I said that my first 8th generation game console was going to be the Xbox One, because at the time it appealed the most to me, it had what I wanted, and the launch lineup looked better than the PS4 at the time. And a few months after launch, I ended up purchasing the PS4. Right now, the PS4 is my console of preference. It actually has been for a while. And you know why that happened? The launch of the PlayStation 4 was not appealing to me. There were no games that I wanted on the PS4. Even when I purchased my PS4, I ended up having a few games that I already got through PlayStation Plus. I rented Knack because there was nothing else that I wanted to play, and I think I rented Tomb Raider, which I had already played, but I ended up re-renting it on PS4, so I had something to play. The initial launch of the PS4 and the first few months I had it were extremely dry for me, but now, a few years later, I have more games on PS4 than I have on Xbox One. I play much more on the PS4 than I do on Xbox One, but the Xbox One had more games that appealed to me on launch, and in my opinion, had the better launch of just overall features and everything. Again, that is my opinion, but even with me saying that right now, I believe the Xbox One had a better launch, yet why am I spending so much more time on the PlayStation 4? It is because of what has happened afterwards, and that is what Nintendo needs to nail. Right now, they need to have a kick-ass first year and an even better second year with the Switch, and if they can do that, if they can really push out this software, then it will be a success and people will flock to it. So don't worry about the weak launch. Yes, the launch is only going to happen one time. The presentation is key. So far, people love the presentation of the system. The launch, it has Zelda. It's set. Wait about, 6 months, wait a year, and we'll see what happens. And let's go ahead and revisit this as well, too. If in a year, there's still really no good games out on the Switch, and there's things that have been pushed back and such, then there's going to be issues. But really, these consoles don't even fully mature, I would say, until year 2. That's when we start seeing, the real good games, year 2 and 3. That's when we see, the good stuff. That's at the time when there's a lot of people who've bought the system, there's the install base, the developers actually know how to utilize the hardware, and it happens every generation. So, if you're worried about it, just chill, don't worry. If you're picking up a Switch, go ahead and enjoy it on launch. If you're not picking it up, just kind of sit back, see what happens, but don't worry about the launch. It can have a weak launch, it's fine. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you liked this video, a like would very much be appreciated. If you absolutely hated it because you don't want the Switch to be out or anything, and you don't want, that 1-2 switch thing, a dislike is fine too.